Welcome back to the Significant Recruiting Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Rogers. Today's episode is part 2 of my conversation with Dr. John Comerford, president of Otterbein University in Westerville, Ohio. In part 1, he challenged us to rethink everything we believe about the cost of college. In part 2, we turn to the world of college athletics, specifically recruiting, and what he expects from his coaches. What struck me most in this conversation is how Dr. Comerford approaches recruiting with the same conviction he brings to higher education. He believes recruiting should be rooted in honesty, integrity, and alignment with the mission of the institution. He sets clear expectations for his coaches to recruit not just talented athletes, but the right people, students of character who will exceed in the classroom, in competition, and in the community. For parents, student athletes, and coaches alike, this is an eye-opening discussion on what leadership at the very top expects when it comes to the recruiting process. Before we dive in, make sure you've subscribed to our weekly newsletter so you never miss any content, podcasts, blogs, and recruiting tips that can help your family or your program. You can sign up and find all my books, classes, and resources at CoachMattRogers.com. Now let's get to it. Here's part 2 of my conversation with Dr. John Comerford. John, so great to see you again. This is what we call the Significant Recruiting Podcast, so it's a little different than what we did before. And I know as the president, you're not out there necessarily doing a lot of recruiting, even though you're recruiting alumni and benefactors and things like that. So you are a big-time recruiter, maybe the most important recruiter on your campus. Do any of your coaches use you for recruiting?
Yeah, so we do visit days, and several coaches, not all the coaches, have me come in and do a little welcome at a visit day. I also go out of my way. Here's a little secret, and I think every campus has a version of this. You can tell a campus tour at Otterbein because the visiting student is carrying a red bag. We give them a red bag as soon as they get to campus, and you watch for red bags on campus.
I love that.
And
That's
so
smart.
I know, right? So I beeline over anytime I see a red bag that, or I know the coaches, and so I can see a coach is walking somebody around.
Right.
And so I always walk up, meet the student, always introduce myself to the parents, but I always try to engage the student in conversation. And then what I know is happening in these, whether they're athletes or not, when I do that with a tour group or do that on a visit day, then the coach or the tour guide uses that as an example of our great community here. See, even the president can walk up and say hi to you and whatever. That's what Otterbein is. I become the symbol of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd love to be engaged in it.
That's great. When you talk about numbers with your athletic director, and I'm sure you have regular conversations with your AD or whoever your VP is overseeing that, what do roster sizes mean to you in terms of max and min? We have the full spectrum in our country. We have coaches, we have presidents that say, we're going to milk athletics for all we've got. We're going to fill beds. And if we have to have 40 kids on a basketball roster, we're going to do it. And then we have presidents that say, I want healthy rosters. I want coaches to figure out what they need to be healthy and successful. Where do you stand with that?
So I want a positive student experience. And so if you get too big and you don't adequately resource it, like with the JV program and assistant coaches and whatever else to give a positive student athlete experience, you're going to end up with a retention problem and eventually a reputational problem in that program.
Yeah.
And so you might have the short-term boost of we got 10 more students this last fall, but then a year later, when they haven't had a good experience, they haven't had any playing time, they haven't any attention from the coach, they haven't had a JV game to play, they're going to leave. And that's going to be bad for your school and bad for your program in the long term. So it's finding that sweet spot. The other thing I would throw out is in terms of roster sizes, I like an even predictability. I don't like hey, we're going to get 80 football players this year, but then we're going to be too big, so we're only going to get 40 the next year. That creates these swings in enrollment. That's not good for the institution. We need a predictable roster size. The last thing I'll say, Matt, is, and we're in the middle of this at Otterbein, and not everyone loves it, but we're working on it. I am pushing us towards a budgeting model for athletics that is a per student athlete model.
Thank you.
It doesn't make any sense to push coaches to recruit more student athletes and not give them resources to support those athletes. In the same way, it doesn't make any sense that if your number of athletes have dropped by 50 athletes, you should need less budget now to support your student athletes. It should go up or down with the number of students that you're serving on those rosters. And so that incentive structure has been lacking here, and I think a lot of schools and I would like to get us there.
I love it. I will beat that drum for you all day long. And I teach coaches this. They go, if your athletic director and your president isn't pushing it, you need to push it, because that's your leverage, that you can say, every year I have 20 kids on my roster. Every single year I'm putting 20 kids in the classroom, and we're retaining 90% on the team, and at least, or 70% are retained on the team, and 90% are staying on campus. So even if they don't decide they're not good enough or don't want to play, they're staying here. So I love that incentive. How does that work with full-time assistant coaches for you?
So we have not had that model, but in theory, if you can create the incentive through a funding per athlete sort of approach to incentivize a coach to grow that roster, then you would have a full JV program, in my mind, with the support of an assistant coach to deal with those numbers. It has never made sense to me, and this will be controversial when I say it, the way we place assistant coaches in athletics, there's no rhyme or reason to it. We often don't have a full-time assistant in baseball or softball, even though they tend to have larger rosters, but by God, we always have one in basketball. Let's rationalize this a little bit. Yeah. And actually get that help where the students are, as opposed to everyone else does it this way. Now let's think about where we have student athletes in need of more support and have the incentives in place to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And if coaches are smart about it and saying, okay, if I need 20 kids on my basketball roster, I need 22, and I get a full-time assistant, if we can maintain that, I'm just not going to work towards that.
That's right. And coaches are competitive, Matt. Put a mark on the wall. Let them work towards it and give them a reason to get there.
I love it. I love it. Let's do it. You be the model, and I'll preach it to anybody that'll listen.
If I can get that past everyone here, I'll let you know.
2 quick questions for you, and then I'm going to let you go. And I know you got to go to another meeting. Quick piece of advice for a parent going through the college experience. And it could be any direction you want to go. What do they need to understand about their child wanting to play in college, and what they need to be thinking about?
Yeah, and I have a college freshman who just started last week. So I just did all these college. He was an athlete in high school, wasn't interested in playing in college, but still, what I beat is match. You don't go to a school because all your friends are going there. You don't go to a school because your boyfriend or girlfriend is going there. You don't go to a school because you always see them play on Saturday on TV. You go to a school that is a match for you. And it's not just because it feels good and you had a good tour guide. Do they have a program that's a match for you? Do they have faculty that are going to know your name? Do they have the right financial aid so you're not going to pay through the nose for something that's not meaningfully different than something that could have been half that cost? It's a match thing as opposed to a group think that we often get. I did, a little aside, when I was in graduate school, I was on a Lumina Foundation grant, and we did research on student migration patterns in Western states, which is just as exciting as it sounds, Matt. But I did a meta-analysis of all the research about how students pick their colleges. And the answer of 50, 60 years of research is there is no rhyme or reason. It's because they had a nice tour guide on a sunny day and it felt like home. And that's not a reason to make a life decision. And the equivalent of Consumer Reports, like if you're going to buy a car, I read Consumer Reports first, is U.S. News and these other magazines where their criteria are not individualized to you. They're ranking minivans and sports cars and SUVs on the same list. And you've got to decide, do I want a sports car or a minivan or an SUV? You got to know what you want first before you go to some list. And often they don't know what they want and what they need first.
I agree. I love it. And it's what I preach. And there's going to be a book showing up and you won't know where it came from, but I'll send it to you and you tell me your thoughts when you get it.
Great.
Same question for the student athlete that mom and dad is making them listen to these 3 minutes of this podcast. What does the student athlete need to understand about their journey?
Student athletes, I would say student is before athlete for a reason, right? We love that you want to play this sport. We want you on our team. We want you to represent a school, and it's going to be a big part of your experience. But you don't want to go to a school to play football or to play basketball or to play softball, right? You want to go to a school because that's where you want to get educated. That's where you want to connect. That's where you want to have your life transformed. And as a bonus, you get to play this sport. And at least that's the D3 mentality, and it may not be in the other divisions. But I think knowing that very few people end up going pro, having first things first is really what's going to matter.
Fantastic.
I love the conversation. I wish it was longer if my technological skills weren't so poor,
We did great, Matt.
but good luck with everything. And I'll look forward to future conversations.
Likewise, man. I'm glad to know you, and thanks for inviting me.
That wraps up part 2 of my conversation with Dr. John Comerford, president of Otterbein University. What stands out most about Dr. Comerford is that he's not afraid to go against the norm or push back on the status quo. He's willing to fight for what's right for his community, for his coaches, and for families who simply want an easier path to get their kids to college. That kind of conviction is what makes his leadership resonate so strongly with me. If you're a parent or a student athlete, I hope this conversation gave you a clearer picture of what true leadership looks like in college recruiting. And if you're a coach, it's a reminder that the standards you set and the values you live impact far more than your team's record. For more resources on recruiting, coaching, and leadership, visit CoachMattRogers.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our weekly newsletter so you never miss an episode, a blog, or the latest recruiting help. Until next time, stay focused, stay humble, and keep chasing significance.